there. Probably would have been a slower march towards the same outcome because Hunter-Ace was not able to find the nourish himself, so he was so far behind for a lot of the time. But the fact that he was able to nourish without being behind on tempo because he didn't give that turnover to Hunter-Ace meant that there was no option like we saw from Pheno, like we saw from BoarControl in previous series, where they had the lower value hand, but they just turned that hand into face damage, and that face damage made the player play inefficiently on the other side, and that bridged the gap a little bit. That option wasn't available for Hunter-Ace because of that Innovate draw off the top from Swids, which just made everything go that one turn faster for him.
Yeah, my just one call to action here is now that we've seen Innovate and Nourish still be played, can we please buff Keeper of the Grove and Ancient Allure again? I will leave it rest at that. Those are the two important cards. I want to see Keeper of the Grove and Ancient Allure get played again.
Your call to action, even though they've nerfed a million Druid cards and Druid is still very powerful, is to buff more Druid cards.
I'm okay with nerfing other cards.
Okay, all right, that's important. I'm glad we made that distinction.
I just want Keeper of the Grove and Ancient Allure back, okay? I missed them.
2/4 Keeper of the Grove is an entirely reasonable card. Like, I don't understand that one.
Thank you, Sottle.
Yeah.
Bunnyhoppor versus BoarControl is the match that we have next on deck, where both players had protected Priest. Bunnyhoppor has had Shaman banned away, and BoarControl has had Shaman banned away as well. So, protect Priest, Q Warrior? Question mark?
We've diverted a little bit, Admirable. We've been seeing the Priest mirrors with pretty overwhelming consistency up until this point. Although, actually, no, there has been a couple of openers that were a little bit different.
Yes.
And Bunnyhoppor has been generally doing things a little bit different throughout the entire season.
So, something that I've noticed about the KC Bunnyhoppor RDU crew is that they have very distinct pan-outs in mind when it comes to these matches, and they fully execute those with confidence.
Yeah, you wanted to fight me over this yesterday. Jeez.
Well,
you're an angry boy.
You disagreed with it. The genius that is Casey.
You dared to disagree with them.
Apologize.
Apologize.
Oh, I was saying it to Boar for this opening hand. My goodness.
Yeah, we are going to need an official letter of apology.
Now, the thing about it is, in this matchup, you do have to consider what Weapons Project looks like. The Nightmare opening start for BoarControl is 1-drop into directly Weapons Project.
Yep.
So his nod is a direct nod to that. It means that the Weapons Project does not fight on board immediately.
Yeah, it was interesting because we heard Viper really breaking down what Eternium Rover did for you in other matchups, and he was talking about it against Priest. And he's like, well, it's only really relevant if you then draw Weapons Project, I think is the way round he did it.
Yes.
But I couldn't remember which one he did and didn't account for in his explanation. But there is also Shield Slam with Eternium Rover specifically that becomes relevant if you have Eternium Rover in play on turn 1. It could make a big difference, especially if you're on coin some of the time. So I think there was maybe a little bit more merit to the Eternium Rovers than Viper was giving them credit for, but I still 100% enjoyed him rinsing. That's admirable on the topic.
I mean, his point's very valid, and I think that was demonstrated in Psycho's match earlier this week, where he held onto his Shield Slam in a spot where a Weapons Project Shield Slam was a really sick turn.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because the matchup, like, sure, Shield Slam can answer something, but you need it to be a tempo play.
Yeah.
Or you need it to be like a direct answer to like a major pinpoint threat. Like, Northshire Cleric's a major threat, but leading up to a Brawl turn, the Priest is tiptoeing a bit. After an Ament turn, they stop tiptoeing, and that Shield Slam needs to be able to hit an Ament before the Priest has access to some major turns that'll change the landscape.
Yeah, I, again, absolutely agree that Viper was correct in calling out the Weapons Project, because that is the good one. The Shield Slam is the slightly icky one in the scenario. But rule 101 against Priest, if you can kill a minion, kill a minion. Like, it just improves your position exponentially almost every time you kill a high-value minion.
6 cards drawn. Wait, 4 cards drawn? 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 4 cards drawn. 5 cards with the Powered Shield. Average the 2 things.
Final answer, 5 cards.
Well, you just average the 2 that I said.
Okay.
Yeah, simple. Yeah. I think that rule of kill stuff might be coming into play. 1/7 Northshire Cleric tends to be about the spot where I'm like, okay, significant threat.
Northshire Cleric seems to be about the tipping point where I would say, oh, significant threat.
I hate shield slamming it.
What?
I hate when I have to do it.
All right, like, maybe if I have, like, Coin Restless Mummy in my hand or something, like, maybe I'll leave it alive for a turn.
1/7 is the tipping point.
You kill the Cleric.
I will always kill a 1/7 cleric if I can. 1/3, I'm willing to let it attack me a couple times. It's not like you play minions on Bunnyhopper's side.
Yeah, but they do.
They're not always injured.
They are a lot of the time.
They are.
They also play buff cards that pull the cleric out of range of the thing that you want to use to kill it with.
Well, the thing I really want to use to kill it with is Brawl.
What if it's the only minion in play and it's like a 12/12 and it's smacking you in the face? You kill the minions.
You win some, you lose some.
You kill the minions.
I'm not shield slamming a cleric.
Boar stressing about the prospect of a Restless Mummy now. Doesn't really have anything he can do to play against it, and I think that shake of the head is the realization that that's the case. If he has it, he has it. It's the scenario. Yep. Play the Tolvir. This is the best line if he doesn't have it, and you can't beat it. Doesn't have it. It's actually a pretty big win. Just, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Can't really think of it. This is rare. Boar, he's not necessarily playing for anything in terms of playoff qualification, but finishing the season at an even record, I think, is just a nice finishing line goal to hit at the end. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, pride is almost exactly the word I was looking for. Thank you, Admirable.
Self-respect?
Yeah,
like,
right.
He is British. Oh, no wonder you couldn't find the word.
Right, yeah, it's very rare that a British person considers their own self-respect at anything, because it's just so low to begin with. If we're talking about self-loathing, oh, through the roof.
Well, he's hunting the 6-8 record then, right?
But yeah, I think hitting the 50-50 record is just a nice check mark to hit when you go into then Season 3. Just like, all right, you know, nice mid-table finish, 7-7, 50% win rate against the best players in the world. We take those.
Yeah.
Yep. Big thing incoming.
Well, see, this is like the conundrum, right? This is the position I feel like I'm always in when I have played the Priest versus Warrior matchup, is that when I'm in the Warrior spot and there's the piddly minions in play and I don't use my removal, they have to have the buffs. That's what it feels like in that spot. When I'm playing the Priest side and I'm in this position, I'm like, if I use these buffs, things can go awry. And so I don't want to use the buffs, but at the same time, I pretty much have to use them because if I play more minions, they just brawl.
Yeah.
I wonder.
And I think that's the advantage of having a shield slam available to you in the grand scheme of things, is that it puts so much stress away from me when I know that they have to buff in order to get anything done.
And I totally agree with that point. I think Priest developing 1 to 3 mid-rangey things or one giant thing that doesn't line up against whatever removal that the Warrior has on that given turn is usually the best way to go about it. And preserving removal from the Warrior side is important, but I mean, if we're going back to the earlier point, like, yeah, you can save removal against a 2-3 or a 1-2 or even a Light Warden you can let live for a while. But, you know, you're saying, like, they have to have the buffs. The buffs are scary. If you let a Cleric live, the Cleric is the card that draws them the buffs so that they're able to be scary.
Yeah, it's about timing to mitigate the draw is what I think.
Sure. Oh, of course. Yeah, there is certainly some finessing you can do about imagining certain situations where, you know, you don't play minions, there's no injured minions on their board, maybe they've already played one Tolvir and you've killed it, whatever else. You can certainly try and finesse some spots where it's hard for them to draw cards. But I'm sticking with the idea of killing the Northshire Cleric. By the way, Admirable and I are having a completely hypothetical argument here. Bunnyhoppor has killed 100% of the Northshire Clerics that he could have
1-7 was a tipping point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Bunnyhoppor backed me up on it.
That, like, out of context, it sounds like if you haven't seen the start of the game that, like, Bunny didn't kill this Cleric and now it's running away with the game.
Right.
Like, that's not the case. He killed every Cleric he was able to this game.
That attack is meant to threaten the Northshire Cleric in the face of development, or occupy Boar's mana so that development is stunted.
Yep.
Also plays to the Ziliax in your hand, a Restless Mummy draw.
So a Plague of Wrath was just used, which is one of one copy in Bunnyhoppor's deck. So now, with that big removal used, solo 10/10 on this board. It's pretty attractive looking.
It's definitely looking more appealing. I think that board is going to take into consideration what Armagadillo looks like in this spot.
Sure.
Because I think that's one of the cards that could pretty heavily disrupt your all-in plan, is just that into a Ziliax. Like, that alone, I think, peels away a lot of the work that you've done. It cuts into the size of the Northshire Cleric quite heavily, and, you know, forbid there's a Tomb Warden in hand that follows that up. So I think that's going to play into account for him, but at the end of the day, that's a lot of stuff that has to happen. And so I can see justification for just about everything that isn't like a pure all-in play.
Okay. So in 10/10 world, Armagadillo comes down, you smash it, you have 6 health, you heal it back up to 8. The Ziliax is scary in terms of healing and that you have to deal with it, but it still doesn't quite contest your cleric on the board, right?
Yeah, it's a chain reaction of things that happens where you're shy to develop due to the brawl. That's the nature of the matchup.
Yeah, okay, so all right. So you make a good point, which is in this matchup, it's all good saying, well, I'm all in now and I only have 1 minion on the board, so he can't brawl me. But then you can be like, well, what am I going to do? Not play another minion for the rest of the game?
Yeah.
Like, is this 10/10 going to solo carry? And I think you're absolutely right. That is a very delicate balancing act that you do have to look at.
And for Bunny, I think this is approaching the do I die this turn guessing game, where I feel like in this spot, it's tough to not brawl and it's difficult to brawl.
Yeah.
That Light Warden makes being at 29 very awkward for the Ziliax. Like, just everything here lines up to be very poor for Bunnyhoppor.
Dude, the Ziliax, when you're like the control player against Priest, the Ziliax Light Warden interaction is one of the most frustrating things in the world. It just never seems to line up how you want.
And I think when you slice everything apart this way, you take the risk and did not touch the Northshire Cleric. Look at Boar's face.
Bunnyhoppor killed 100% of the Northshire Clerics he could this game.
No, he didn't.
The game did not allow him to kill that one.
He missed that one, yeah.
I must consider.
Multiple things in play also changed that.
Yeah.
Specifically, Ahmet Light Warden.
Yep. No circle, no Nephset though. As of yet, we'll keep you updated as the story develops. Nope, still not there.
I love Soddle's news time. Yep, I'm in that spot.
Boy, this is a tough hand to play.
It's just like everything you do is like a colossal trap, it feels like.
This is such a hard Hearthstone hand to play. What is happening? Yeah, sure, that seems about right.
Nice split threats.
Yep.
Mitigate the impact that Brawl has. Keep yourself strong to Warpath.
Ziliax still colossally irritating.
Yeah, this might be a willing to accept the Brawl kind of turn. Like, Northshire living here as a pretty good outcome. And if you think you're getting above 33% from this spot, I would be very surprised to see what that line is, because I don't know.
Well, okay. Semantics time with Subtle and Admirable. I don't think you have to think you're above 33% from this point, because even if you win the 33% brawl, I still don't think you're winning the game anything close to 100% of the time in that outcome.
I agree.
Yeah.
But imagine, so in that same regard, imagine this hand pulling higher than half of 33.
Sure. Just wanted to make sure the numbers were accurate.
I just wanted to make it simple, is what I did.
Remember when I said earlier that I really liked that purple statement because it didn't lose any truth by being simple? It's very nice.
No, there's nothing wrong with mine. Imagine not winning more than 33% of the time from here.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. All right, you win this round.
Yeah. Remember, when I said Dr. Boom would be playable if the Boom bots had taunt, that doesn't mean it's unplayable, just means it would be playable if the Boom bots had taunt, which is technically true.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what else is technically true. Bunnyhoppor gonna die.
8. 16. Oh, it's 7. Why do I think it was buffed? 7. 14.
28.
28. I can count, I promise, chat. Count with me. Everyone in chat, count to 28.
Big game 1 win for Boar. I think he navigated that game pretty excellently. It was timing that was really the big deal. Just walks away.
Peace.
He's like, I'm done. It was the timing of his threats that really made a big difference in this one. Sure, you look at it, you started with 2 Northshires, but one of them got checked pretty fantastically. The other one got mitigated in a very big way. And so for him, it was the Amet Light Warden turn, and then the follow-up to spread the buffs and leave the Northshire weak. It gives Bunnyhoppor an opportunity to brawl, which is going to yield Boar in that position a much higher win rate than if the brawl is held, I think. And so given that circumstance, Bunnyhopper's just pinned against the wall, and he's like, I have to take this position, and then you get a payoff with a Divine Spirit.
Yes, and I want to be very clear. I have no qualms with your assessment, like the root of what you were saying, which is Brawl is his highest win rate play here, which I think is absolutely true in that spot. I do, however, like for me, Boar's just leaving a Northshire Cleric as a 1-3 unbuffed Northshire Cleric, or like 1-5, but it was injured, blah, 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 you get the point. To me, it's just a level of respect for Northshire Clerics that I share, where like that thing on its own is a game-winning threat. He doesn't need to put any more buffs on it to make it more enticing to be a target that can win the brawl. Like he's fine if that thing wins the brawl. He just keeps drawing, keeps developing threats. So I do agree that it was probably the best outcome for Bunny in that position. It was certainly the best outcome when the alternative was Boar drawing a second Divine Spirit and ending the game on the following turn. But I agree completely. Very, very well navigated game from Boar. Looked very simple at times, looked incredibly complicated at others based on all the different options that are available.
Yep. 2 general rules that I tend to follow when I'm going into what I anticipate is a brawl turn. Number 1, can I draw a lot of cards afterwards? Number 2, can I deal a lot of damage afterwards? If I can't do one of those 2 things, well, then I just feel like I'm in trouble.
Oh, from the priest position.
From any position.
Yeah, so in that, okay, yeah, but as the priest in that matchup, in that spot, yeah, he either had a big minion alive that represented a ton of damage with all the buffs that he had in hand, or he had the cleric survive where he just gets to go heal, play more buffs, play more minions, start again.
Start again. So, we're going to start again right after this break. When we come back, jumping into game number 2 of Bunnyhoppor versus BoarControl. It's our 5th match of the day, but because it's Superlative Sunday, it means we have a 6th bonus match afterwards. So stay tuned.
I see lethal, guys. I see a freaking lethal. Yeah. Yes. Dead turn 5. Dead turn 5. This game will be a fiesta. No. Can we mill him now? Can I mill the Shadow up? Faster! Get ready. I will play that in my decks. Oh, my tea! Oh, I forgot about my tea! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no, my tea!
My name is Rafael Pelzer. I go by Bunnyhoppor in Hearthstone. I've always been a competitive kid. There's like always a little bit more to the game, right? You get tired of just playing at a certain level and you're like, you always just want a little bit more. You hit legend, you hit high legend, you hit rank 1 and you're like, let's go to the next level. Yeah, it means a lot to me to be in the Grandmasters program because it feels really great to be recognized, especially last year was going really well for me. I think what I look forward to the most in Grandmasters is just have this weekly schedule of competition that every week you can iterate your lineup. Every week you have another match against another good player instead of having these dry periods where you don't play any matches, any best of 5s, best of 3s. So my personal goals is firstly do well in Grandmasters, and secondly is I'm still trying to find a good job in chemical industry.
Is there some sort of X factor that sets you apart from everyone else?
I mean, I have a doctor, haha.
I'm George Webb, known as BoarControl in-game. So my name, BoarControl, you would always say this player has board control when you're casting something, and if there's a Stone Chest boar on board, suddenly that player has boar control. The memory that stands out to me from Hearthstone has to be my first tournament victory, which was at Seat Story House Cup 10. I had to face off against Orange in the semi-finals, Chansifka in the quarters, Fino in the round of 16, so it was a pretty stacked event, and then facing Casey in the final, winning that tournament, that really stands out as the main memory. I like to play decks that get on board, and you have swing turns, and you have trades, lots of trades on the board, you try and get an edge in that sense. I'm also open to playing lots of other decks like combo decks too, but in general in Hearthstone, spending your mana and playing a guy has been the best play you can do. In Grandmasters, I want to do well. It's a new format, best of 3, so it's going to be more difficult to get an edge, but I'll try my best to find that edge and do as well as I can in the tournament.
Welcome back to Hearthstone Grandmasters. Superlative Sunday is what we're on. We're amidst our 5th match right now, but we have the bonus match that's in play today, so a 6th one is coming up afterwards. I'm Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora, joined by Simon Sotto-Welch, and right now, BoarControl has a 1-0 lead over Bunnyhoppor.
Yep, with a very nicely played game of Priest under the belt for BoarControl. That is the matchup that the Warrior players will always say they want to queue, the one they feel favored in. I think honestly, the line has just come down to pretty 50-50. And I think it does actually rely a lot on builds of the Warriors as well. Like, you can go full removal-heavy version that has, like, the Whirlwind and all the Plague of Wraths and all the Brawls and all the everything else. And that's a 1 Plague of Wrath list without a Whirlwind for Bunnyhoppor, which I believe is a little bit worse. So I would call it, like, 48 to 52 in either direction, just depending on exactly how those decks are built from the Warrior side. Obviously, Priest is just Priest, not really much changes. But that is in the past now, and it is Druid Mirror time, as BoarControl has found himself a little helper for this Druid game.
Oh, has he?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the cat, you mean. I was looking at this hand.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's Druid. It's all about feral cats, right? Seems reasonable. That was the rarer of BoarControl's 2 cats, I believe. It was Bessie as opposed to Billy.
I just always thought he was saying Billy really weird.
I just thought it was the same cat the whole time.
Well, so I have this like thing where I'm like super allergic to cats. So my head kind of is like, hey, it's a cat.
Yes.
Good job, stay there. My face will explode if I touch you.
Yes. We had a pretty awkward situation in Bahamas when we were from a holiday destination resort. We were casting an HCT event from Bahamas, and there was a bunch of, wild island cats essentially around that just roamed the grounds in the Bahamas. And now I am an absolute cat magnet. They love me. They really vibe with the attitude of just loathing everything and just lying on the ground all the time, which is pretty much what I do with my day. So, cats just refuse to leave me alone, and Admirable hates them. So we actually just couldn't spend any time with each other.
Wrong word. Extremely allergic.
Well, okay, so hates being around them. Let's put it that way.
Well, because I'm extremely.
Yes, sure. Cats are awesome. They are the best of us.
Wouldn't know.
Just gonna have to trust me.
Can't really see or breathe when I'm around them. Well, would you look at that?
just counting turns.
Boar's like, what? Well, they're both good. What do I do? How am I supposed to know this?
I think this is just, well, okay, so if I take this, and then on 5, I go Oasis Surger, and then he goes this, and then I respond with question mark, be it Oasis Surger, or whether I just wait for play the Nourish on turn 6, and then I curve into Cenarius. This looks like the most logical curve to me, the 3 cards that BoarControl has ended this turn with in his hand right now.
Imagine having not taken that Cenarius.
Yeah.
You know, I just realized this, but I noticed something unique just now. I couldn't for the life of me figure out why Swids just had regular Worthy Expeditions in his golden deck in the previous game. It's so that way when you create a card, you know which one was created, because it contrasts with the rest of your deck.
So it's a reminder as to which one to play from your hand, as to not give your opponent information?
Unless you want to give them
Unless you want to give them information?
Yeah.
Maybe. I can buy it.
Cool.
Yeah, sure.
Just something I noticed.
No, you're actually instructed not to play Golden Worthy Expedition because it creates a weird cloud glitch on the cards when you discover off Worthy Expedition. Am I getting that confused with something else?
Yeah,
maybe?
the lackey that everyone refused to make non-golden. Hashtag shout out to the players who followed the rule. Or request, rather, I suppose.
Yeah. I think we should give every player who followed that request a bonus win. Just completely mess up the entire league table right now. Make everything completely confusing.
Yeah, Jarla sits at 11-4 now. I don't know if you followed the rule or not. That was the first record that came to my mind.
Yep.
Even though I'm staring at 2 records on screen right now. All right, double Crystal Merchant. I have done this before. It sometimes gets troublesome. It takes away a lot of the luxury of preserving cards and makes you have to start spending them.
Yes. Also makes it very difficult to cast the card Nourish if you get to turn 6 with a Nourish in your hand.
Ooh, I'm seeing good cards to spend, though. Power of the Wild, just take those. Perhaps you want the option of 2 damage?
You know, just take it right now and play it, get it out your hand again.
I'll play the one that's in the deck.
Yes.
Bunnyhoppor will not need the reminder.
We just had this talk. Yeah.
Time waits for no one.
I love that noise so much.
It's just, that's how I feel when I draw a card. It's encapsulated my inner feeling onto a 2-mana 1/4. I imagine you said something about like drawing cards and it being troublesome when you had 2 Crystal Merchants in play.
Yeah.
Like, what was it that drew cards?
6 mana.
Like gave you mana and drew cards or something? I don't know.
What to do?
Like it used to cost 5 and then
Yeah.
left it.
Yeah, I think like
I don't know.
Bunnyhoppor just drew it.
It'll come to us.
Yeah. (3-2) very well thought out. Voice Surger trade over the Merchants. Swipe, trade the 3-2 in. Complete quest, and now Boar is up on serve.
Yup. Free board, free turn, free Nourish. Likely going to Expedition alongside this.
Yeah, I don't feel like sacrificing my Crystal Merchant to an Oasis Surger sometimes.
Nope.
And I really want it to draw a card.
All right.
Yep, I will take my Terminator form, Lodi.
Once again, we find BoarControl in the same position he was last time he played this matchup. We've talked about it multiple times throughout the weekend because I think we only saw 2 Druid mirrors where this wasn't the case. One was the Hunter Ace one that we just watched, and then there was one other. But overwhelmingly, it's been the players from the KC Bunnyhoppor practice group who have included Chef Nomi this week up against people who have in practice with BoarControl, our T1 members or whatever else, who have the same build that BoarControl has. So we've seen this dynamic of Nomi on one side versus no Nomi on the other play out over and over again this weekend.
Or as I wish it would have been named, No Me versus Yes Me.
But then, is the Yes Me the deck that does have the No Me in it?
Now you understand why it was a wish instead of
Yeah.
that call to action that I made for Keeper of the Grove earlier.
Yeah, fair enough. It was a very spirited plea on your part.
I demand it!
What?
I was going to slam the table, but this game has felt fairly serene so far.
It has, yeah. Not gonna lie, I've spent a lot of it stealing glances down at the cat in the lower corner of BoarControl's webcam. Can't help it, cats are so great.
What to do?
I can't find like a good goal for Bunnyhoppor this turn. Like, you wanted to just have the biggest swing possible without using too much stuff.
Well, he actually kind of does want to use some stuff,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
In a weird way, because he just wants to have that Nourish castable. You don't want to play multiple turns with the mana disadvantage in this matchup. You saw what that meant for Hunter Ace earlier.
I just feel like it requires more setup. Like, you just can't get it done this turn.
Right.
And so for BoarControl, how can you take a lead because of that? Does not have to fear mind control tech on the side of Bunnyhoppor. Bunnyhoppor does not have that luxury. He does need to consider it.
I wonder.
Feoris, full tempo, full aggression. Again, we've talked about the dynamic on several occasions. Boar kind of has to assume this role. He can't just all sit back and wait until everyone reaches the end of their deck and gets to set up the perfect Elise hand and maximize their value and get a bunch of Zephyrus and get a bunch of win conditions. Because BoarControl loses that battle more often than not to the Chef Nomi.
Yeah, he's pretty handedly called out Starfall here, which is not in Bunnyhopper's hand. He does, however, have the Floop and Swipe.
Floop's a big resource, though. Big resource.
However, I'm not even sure the Floop Swipe is good in this spot.
You still need low T attacks, right? A lot of the time.
Well, you can take some damage. You want to get the board contained to a manageable spot is the key.
Okay.
Time waits for no one.
Boar winces to the Floop. It hurts now, but it might not as much later on.
Second Nourish. Bunny still yet to cast his first.
Yeah, I
But
think
those two Crystal Merchants that he had early on has kept him high enough on resources that he's been able to fight back against this from BoarControl.
so. There's two things that Bunnyhoppor got word of last turn. Number one, a lot of the mana cost in Boar's hand.
Yep.
And then number two is what that means for the rest of his capacity to push in this situation. So for Boar, when he sees this swipe, he knows that Bunnyhoppor has his information and will likely just forego board tension regardless because of the presence of multiple Starfalls of a swipe that's there. So board hand reads, I feel like, really get shaken up in a spot like this where this could very easily be a trap to set up for a big Starfall. If that's the case, I have no idea how to push through that.
Time waits for no one.
Yeah, sounds like Nourish for 2 cards to me.
My hand is too
Ooh. Logged and filed for Bunnyhoppor. That mind control tech bites the dust. No longer a concern. Very difficult hand again for BoarControl to navigate. Nourish burn a card. It's rarely the right play, but there are certainly spots where it is.
It's a huge draw.
I wonder.
The Wrath right now just straight up kills the Cenarius.
That is accurate.
Just 3 and 5 on the hits. Bunnyhopper's gonna nourish for 2. This is interesting.
My hand is too full.
He loses a Surger for it. Wasn't possible to do it the other way around.
Time waits for no one.
Can't Starfall and then Nourish. Crystals don't work like that.
This is the first time I've seen anybody in Europe burn a card with Nourish.
I think we've seen it once before.
On the following draw, perhaps.
I think we have. Not willing to double down on that. Might have just been a European GM player on stream, maybe.
It's interesting to me.
Definitely seen it happen. Very deliberate on both players' parts.
Yep.
It's worth noting.
Well, that's the point I wanted to get at.
Yes.
I wanted you to go ahead and talk about the implications of it.
I mean, they knew what they were doing. Boar just had a extremely ugly turn there, so he was looking for something to do proactively. Hidden Oasis with the pickup that he found, which you were talking about finding a way to make a board that he was happy with the pressure that he had, but didn't just get completely blown out into a Starfall bait, if that was the case. From... forget everything I was saying. That's a Mortuary Machine. 5 mana, 8/8. After your opponent plays a minion, give it Reborn.
So,
keywords, plays a minion.
Yes.
First and foremost, that's important. Not summons a minion, plays a minion. Other important words, Reborn. That's a very important word on that card.
The positive point of this is that Lodi is already in play.
Yes, very true.
Yeah, shout out to that Scorpion, by the way. Just a big minion.
The old 6 mana, 6/9.
Nice.
Time waits for no one.
Like, I don't actually see a play I particularly like that involves popping off with this Mortuary Machine. But if we see a Mortuary Machine get summoned and it just has no downside, I'm going to be very annoyed.
Well, here's the downside. You got Starfalled for 7 and 4.
Yeah.
Okay, there's the downside for you.
Yeah, all right. I just wanted Bunny to have like 7 Reborn minions in play.
Lodi. It's the worst one.
He just plays his own King Phaeorus, gets like a... What's the Echo? Glinda Crowskin? Is that the Echo thing?
Yep.
The Warlock 6 mana thing? Yeah.
I've also gotten that one before. It's
Yes.
fun with Floop.
It is very exciting.
The most fun part of it with Floop to me is that I had no idea what was going to happen the first time I played the Floop.
What to do?
Boar has just found himself in some incredibly awkward spots this series.
Well, I mean,
Despite being 1-0 up and still not entirely out of this game right now, he's had some really tough spots to play.
just hasn't really had much to do. I mean, Bunnyhoppor had 2 Lodis in play. Like, what can you do?
Yeah, how exactly? Like, imagine trying to develop into persistent +2 spell damage from your opponent.
By the way, it threatens poisonous.
Yeah.
So just in case you play something that's too big. Ah, okay, I'll kill it too.
Yeah.
So I think he's found like the route he wanted to get to, which was he has more cards in deck with a Lodi of his own in play. So I believe he's hunting down a Zephyrus pair of turns to be able to fight the oncoming onslaught of Chef Nomi's.
Yeah, it could be a similar scenario as that we saw in the late game from Theno's series, right? Where he's just going to try and stall out the last few turns for as long as he can. Like 1 Zephyrus Frost Nova, 1 Zephyrus Fireball, something like that. Try and get over the line with some fatigue damage ticks coming through. Of course, the Hidden Oasis on both sides have massive implications to that. with Bunnyhoppor still having both Hidden Oasis available and an Elise. I don't know how much of a reliable setup that is, so it's probably going to need to be Zephyrus for legitimate board clears as opposed to stalling techniques.
Well, that's where the mind control tech comes in, right?
Or doesn't, in this case.
Exactly. It being burned away means that you don't have the mind control tech Zephyrus freeze the board play to counter pressure through the fatigue very quickly.
Yes.
Bunnyhoppor's been so strict on cleaning up card draw. That feels like a weird way to expose a Lodi to me.
It does a little bit, yeah.
Is he fearing double Starfall?
I think that's exactly the point I was about to make, which is even with the buff, that's a 6 health minion. He knows, again, go back to the hand read from the Feoris that was played, that was talked about, right? Multiple 5-drop minions were summoned. What are those cards? They are Starfalls. So he knows that they're in hand. He knows that Boar just hasn't really had an opportunity to use them up until this point, and he knows that Boar played his Loti on the previous turn, which suggests that he's looking to engineer some sort of AoE turn coming up. So I think it's really not about, like, what do I want to do with this attack? Like, maybe he could have just shipped it face and left the card draw there, but I think it being revealed and getting some kind of use out of it is just exactly in fear of double Starfall from BoarControl.
Time waits for no one.
Well, the end of that escalated very quickly. I just saw a bunch of cards fly everywhere. It looked like Starfall and clear off the treants. And a defender. That rope, I've never seen one burn that long.
Finally, for the first time in a very long time, Boar feels like he has some kind of handle on the board this game. But this is where the heavy hitters are going to start to come into play on the other side. Boar needs to decide whether he wants to spend these cards on the left-hand side of his hand for his Elise and try and set up more threats, or whether those removal options on the left-hand side of his hand are exactly what he wants in this scenario to line up against his opponent's options. And I would suggest that those removal options still don't line up great against the Chef Nomi deck.
They don't.
I wonder.
That, to me, is the whole deck building process.
Our
King Feoris becomes a bridge to Chef Nomi.
time waits for no one.
I've said it too many times already, but I'll say it again. I love this deck building. It just makes sense.
So next question. Similar to how against Warrior you can continually set up boards to block the Azalina coming down, can BoarControl find pressure points here that can stop the Nomis coming down on key turns and buy himself some extra damage, force some Hidden Oasis from the opponent?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I feel like with these endgame Druid states, there's a way to do everything. It's just what does it risk and what does it cost?
Time waits for no one.
Because that's the ideal goal.
Seems like an excellent start. Get some
Bunnyhoppor.
pressure rolling.
Bunnyhoppor knew this was here, though, right?
Yep.
So he has to have a counter plan to this exact situation. Oh, that's a great time to expose the
Almost out
Lodi.
of cards.
Yeah, I think this is about several things from Boar. He's trying to represent pressure so that Bunny can't just calmly progress his way through to a Nomi fatigue situation and just play the Nomis and then play the Hidden Oasis afterwards. That's the disaster scenario. Plus, he knows that Bunny is looking to have an Elise setup turn at some point in the near future as well. So the more pressure he can pile on, the more unlikely his opponent is to be able to Elise. The bad news is that Oasis Surger is still available for Bunnyhoppor, which does still create a good turn to be able to clap back against this.
What to do?
That makes me ask the question, was this a good time to reveal the Loti?
I think so. Your opponent's quite low.
I agree. With Oasis Surger coming back the other way, you're giving your 4/6 into a 7/1 for the price of 4 damage. Which does, of course, also remove your opponent's Loti, which is a very nice thing for you to be able to do.
Bunnyhopper's used up the Loti at this point.
Yep.
Oh my.
Boar just has another one.
Oh my. So you know that the Nomi is coming down next turn if you clear out this board spot.
Is it coming down next turn?
You know it's possible at least.
Right, but I'm saying, like, you know, both giving credit to each other for being high-level players, right? Like, if Bunnyhoppor plays the Nomi without first duplicating it with Elise, Boar then has all the removal he needs to kill all the threats, right? Like, I don't think that's a legal play from Bunnyhoppor in this position.
Yeah, in my head I skipped the duplicate step. In my head it was done. That's just not how that works.
Nope.
Time waits for no one.
Power takes many.
Save the Wrath. So the Wrath is meant to fight off the 5/5 pressure on the following turn with Elise, Wrath.
Pushes him deeper into fatigue. No way to avoid that once you're in activated hero power form, but it makes sense.
He's just kind of having a laugh about this one. I'm not entirely sure what it is.
Oh, don't worry. I'll find out. In my daily Boar essay.
He doesn't give me the daily essays.
I enjoy them.
I would too. I wonder if that was the Bunnyhoppor look from last turn, was that he wanted to Elise and duplicate, but him having the Anubisath Defender as the last card made that, like, murky, because it means you're duplicating the Anubisath Defender here, or it's just blocking hand space.
Yeah, the problem was the hand was so huge on the previous turn. Like, he had a perfect 10 mana play of just, like, Oasis Surger, Elise, and just clear the board, dominate, but his hand was huge at that point, so he wouldn't have hit all the key cards that he needed. So he had to do something kind of awkward in the middle. I guess this is what Boar's been talking about the whole time. He's been playing the whole game without a Cenarius. Seems like a reasonable thing to be salty about.
I think the game's gone pretty good on both sides. Like,
yeah.
What to do?
It's probably not even salty. It's probably just like, God, give me the card. I need it.
Yeah.
That's the way I win.
Yeah.
Just hard to tell from this perspective. You know, a million thoughts going through their head.
Right.
Like, you know, the last several turns have been spent figuring out how the fatigue ping-pongs back and forth to where you net the advantage due to some critical play.
So now, because the Cenarius was drawn, the Wrath does not have to be used to accelerate the fatigue counter. He got all the duplicates he wants, so he's able to just use the Oasis Surger to take damage off the board. And now Bunny is sat ahead in fatigue with 2 hidden Oasis. Bunnyhoppor is, BoarControl has the fatigue advantage and also has 2 hidden Oasis. So just in the fatigue clock, this is certainly advantage BoarControl. It's just how much of a difference do these Chef Nomis make?
I wonder.
So Chef Nomi's, like, let's just theorize possible worlds, right? So Chef Nomi's happen, they get countered directly 1-for-1 by the Zephyrus, which clears them both. Then Bunnyhoppor has Zephyrus left to be proactive with, which runs into Boar's Cenarius and Oasis Surge at hand.
Not good.
Feels like the Cenarius and Oasis Surges win that one.
So what does Bunnyhoppor do then?
Great question. It's something creative with Zephyrus that doesn't involve playing a Chef Nomi and getting it twisting nethered. I'm just not entirely sure what that is. If in doubt, go Tyrion and see what happens. Argent Protect.
Well, it trades a 4/6 poison and preserves the health.
It's a great card there, don't get me wrong. It's just very funny to see a, turn 20 Argent Protector.
And so I think that's what Bunny's going for, is he's like, go ahead, use this, you could just hex it, come on. Look, it's a Tyrion. Pff, you have Zephyrus Hex, come on. Pff,
Right.
come on.
Right. As soon as a Zephyrus goes down, a Twisting Nether goes down. And if a Twisting Nether goes down, a Chef Nomi doesn't go down. And if a Chef Nomi doesn't go down, BoarControl goes down.
And when he says it doesn't go down, it kind of goes down. It goes down on the board, but what he means is go down from the board.
Yes.
So he's both correct and incorrect simultaneously. It is now Soddle's
I am filing that
idea.
one very firmly under poetic license. Thank you very much.
It's like a Schrodinger's thing, but it's a Soddle's thing.
Time waits for no one.
Ooh, it is happening. It is happening.
So what is he grabbing proactively there? Oh, is it just damage pushes?
Sure, I haven't resolved this turn myself yet, whether the Oasis Surges are going.
Earthshock.
Interesting.
So it's a proactive push from our side. He's saying the damage inflection point matters because you take 2 ticks of fatigue here.
Right. So he's blocking the Nomi. He's blocking the Nomi just with aggression, and that's why he feels comfortable giving up the Zephyrus.
So now, I do believe still that this was an iteration that Bunnyhoppor wanted to have happen, which is an opening for Nomis. So now how do you get to that opening?
I don't think this hand does get there.
Oh, I mean, we have Hidden Oasis 2 Anubisath defenders.
Your opponent hasn't played Cenarius yet. You don't remove this board. Cenarius gets added to it. You then have to Zephyrus Twisting Nether. You're still taking fatigue. Your opponent redevelops again. You're still taking fatigue.
Sounds bad.
I'm scared for Bunny.
Same.
Your wish is my suggestion.
Twisting Nether and 2 Anubisaths.
Ooh. That's exciting. Okay.
But that just doesn't line up very well.
So now if Cenarius comes down, the 2/3/5s would be able to kill 1 4/4, and then the Nomi hits.
I don't know if you kill a 4/4, right?
And then Wrath would be lethal. If the one Cenarius comes down, you absolutely kill a 4/4 because you know there's another Cenarius there that would be duplicated. So the trades are better for them.
Okay.
Because the second Cenarius is there to value trade through.
I was thinking about counter Zephyrus stuff, like where it leaves you the 1 health minions in play.
Yeah, I mean, there might be arguments based on other cards that they have. That's just the one that occurs to me.
I mean, wait. No, Bunnyhoppor has to heal next turn. He knows that there's a Zephyrus in hand.
Also a very good point, yes. So Bunny just fatigued for 2. He's about to fatigue for 3.
Time waits for no
So
one.
this is complicated.
I feel like Cenarius into Cenarius is the best line to prevent your opponent from playing Chef Nomi.
That's a pretty good way to do it.
Pyroblast is all. I did not know that it would give Pyroblast at 11.
I've been trying to say this for I don't know how long now.
Well,
TJ's talked about it. Like, there are 11. He's like, oh, Pyroblast. You're a druid. It sees your hero power is 1 damage.
There's 2 taunts in the way.
Just telling you how I've always, every single time I've played Zephrys on 11 health opponent, it's given me a Pyroblast.
Interesting. Further testing required. I will file that one away.
I do want to workshop it.
You know me, I love testing Zephrys stuff.
Whew, that is not a good looking turn. And I think Boar has manipulated this tempo into his advantage.
Yeah, he's just so successfully locking out this Chef Nomi.
It's locked.
Bunny's side.
I concede.
Yep. Very, very well navigated. Great way to end the season, honestly, because we talked about what... Yep. Do not come off this camera. I will quit this job if you come off this camera. There we go. Excellent. All right, you can do it now. It's fine. 2 excellent wins for BoarControl there, because I was talking about what it means for his record to just have some pride towards the end of the season of having the even record, you know, going 50-50 against some of the best players in the world. But I think those were 2 really tough games to pilot, and I think he started to show some of his finesse and some of his skill, and being a very, very top-level Hearthstone player, and someone that has a lot of respect from a lot of players around the world. I heard Gallon last week saying that, like, he'd made a list of players that he thought were super good that didn't get enough appreciation. And you're like, oh, who's on that list? It's like, BoarControl.
Yeah.
That's it.
To me, like, it really draws back to a comment I made earlier on in the match, too, where that match felt so serene. And it felt like it was chess, so like they're moving pieces into place to try to manipulate that advantage and that momentum.
Yeah.
You watch that end game from BoarControl, and all of that had some big plan to it. And the minute he drew Cenarius, and you're like, well, that's the card he's looking for here, I was like, oh, this makes sense.
Yes.
Duplicate Cenarius to manipulate that Nomi swing that's happening back and forth.
Yeah, we got baited by the Cenarius that was already played, that was from the Worthy expedition, but not accounting that he just hadn't had his Cenarius this game. But yeah, seeing all like the facial expressions and stuff.
You got baited by it. I just didn't see that was happening.
Okay, okay, fair enough.
That was just a good line.
You were just being generically stupid. That's fine.
Yeah, you were being actually stupid.
Yeah, exactly. But once Cenarius was there, it started to make sense, like what Boar was getting frustrated, etc. on camera about, because he was really waiting for that Cenarius to just unlock the long-term game.
So let's talk to him himself. Boar, can you hear us?
Yeah, I was just listening to your chat there. You guys were completely wrong. It was quite a funny scenario because, okay, I was on 44 health, right? So if he no-me's, my Zephrys won't give Frost over. So I had to take damage. I thought it was really weird, like because of the whole power, you know, the no-me back and forth stuff. Like I couldn't Frost over it if I was on too much health.
Okay,
if it's not lethal, it just won't give me it.
Okay,
so
but
about being on 44.
Does the Frost Nova matter as much when you can't like mind control tech them anymore though? Like, does that line win if you don't have the MCT?
I mean, when he's taking fatigue, I build up board on the same turn that I Nova, right?
Okay. So
then I just kill him. The player's like Surge, Zephrys, Nova, right? And then you kill him with the Surges. I mean, I'm not sure that would have worked, but it was a bit weird because I was worried he would just know me before I Elise, then I forces my Zephrys to be Nether, and then like we both have a slightly worse Elise. I lose my Zephrys. He loses his Nomi, but it's not like his Nomi's playable anyway in the Elise scenario because I have my Zephrys, right? As you saw, he couldn't play his Nomi. So I was really worried. So I tried to bait him into attacking me in the face for 6 so I could get the Nova off my Zephrys. It was really weird.
That is super weird. And then see, that's the kind of stuff like that's so hard to know. Like when I see that happen, I'm just like, just take 6? Like what the... Like, there's no way to tell that that's what you're thinking there. And to hear that explanation, like, really opens my eyes to, like, how many little tiny things are manipulating that momentum and causing you to have to re-look at the scope of the game. I think it's super cool to hear.
Yeah, it might not have mattered that game, but it was just, I was just trying to make sure I covered all the bases covered because my hand was insane, like, for the Elise. I had everything. I had the Surger, the Zephrys, and the Cenarius. It's like the dream hand, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that Cenarius being the second to last card and not the last card was actually pretty important that game, right?
Yes,
that you were able to do the duplication and have the double Cenarius. But anyway, enough boring technical chats, BoarControl. Let's talk about your season as a whole, because I was saying multiple times during that, like, this pushed you to a 50-50 record. Like, do you have any level of pride in that, in, like, you know, 50% record against some of the best players in the world?
Yeah, I mean, this group was basically probably stronger than top 8 at Global Finals, to be honest. Like this group of players was the best we're going to have, and I'm very happy with the even record. I think that I could have played better in some games, so could everyone in the group. But yeah, just got to try and time up play, and then I think series-wise, just decks. I had quite good lineups. Like week 1, I thought I had quite a good edge. Went 0-2 there. That was a shame. If things gone differently there, it changed the whole lookout of the whole season. just looking at the table as well, Fino has 5 wins, first place has 9. 1 or 2 games, that's the whole season. If I'd lost 2 more, I'm out. If I win 2 more, I'm first. Like, it's crazy how such small decisions in games have such a big impact in the overall standings.
Obviously, 2 of your teammates here, Fino and Orange, have unfortunately met their fate. I guess just talk about what it means to you on a personal level as they're friends of yours, but also what it means like professionally to now be like solo flying the flag for T1 in Grandmasters.
Yeah, obviously it's crap. Like, I'm not gonna mince the words. Like, obviously I didn't see the game between Swizz and Hunter Race because of the delay on the stream. I just knew what the result was. So going into the first game, I was a bit shook because obviously that was something we were hoping not to happen. So many things had to go wrong this weekend for it to be possible for the relegations to happen. And yeah, I mean, being out of GM sucks a lot because we all know how hard it is to get into GM considering the qualification process. So yeah, I mean, it's just rough. Whenever you see your friends doing poorly, you hate to see it. There's not really anything great to say about it, to be honest. I do have, regarding flying solo, there's a large practice group of players I'm with, so I'm sure like it'll be all right. I'm sure they'll still practice with me to help out for stuff. Yeah, but it is what it is. Can't really, say too much more.
All right, Boar, this is the final time we're going to talk to you this season. Playoffs have been secure. Is that not true? You're shaking your head now.
No, it's just the cat's gone, so the interview's over at this point. I don't care
I thought
anymore.
maybe you got tiebreakers wrong again.
No,
Sorry.
Carry on.
So,
I'm actually 4th.
This being the final time I was going to talk to you, it's now your time to say whatever you'd like.
Yeah, just shout out to everyone, production, casters, players, for putting in a lot of effort. I know a lot of stuff goes on behind the scenes. I can be on Twitter quite angry when stuff goes wrong. I just want things to go well, like including I'm very critical of my own play, of like things that happen in the game. Just want to know it's because I care and like just want things to go well, guys. So yeah, shout out to everyone who's helped me out and everyone watching.
I think anyone who's watched a single one of your matches can tell by your facial expressions that you care just about the most that you possibly can. Boar, thank you very much for your time and effort this season. It's been wonderful to watch you play, and I can't wait to see you play in Season 3.
Thank you, guys.
What a guy.
You mentioned the question about the teammates, and whoa, that hit close to my heart. I couldn't think of a word to say after that. I feel like my eyes are getting glassy right now just thinking about it.
It's rough. It's very, very rough. You know, there's so many emotional stakes that are very, very new to me as a commentator in Hearthstone, to like Hearthstone broadcast as a whole, because the stakes are so high with Hearthstone Grandmasters that we've, seen people reach the point of tears on camera. We've heard people in interviews talking in this emotive language about friends of theirs and what matches mean and so on that we haven't really heard before. And I think as exciting as that is and as much drama as it adds to the broadcast and as interesting as it is for you and I to talk about it, it's important to remember that there are real people with real stakes and real careers that have been very much affected by this.
Indeed. Indeed. Whew. All right, Psycho versus Casey. Our